Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. Over the past 7 episodes, we have been building a basketball program from the ground up. We started with vision, then standards. We earned the trust of our locker room. We recruited people who fit our culture. We built a coaching staff that believed in the same mission. We designed practices that reflected our identity. And we learned how to hold people accountable without losing relationships. Today's episode, I would like to talk about something every coach dreams about: winning. Every coach wants to win. Players wants to win. Parents wants to win. Athletic directors wants to win. Universities want to win. Winning is one of the reasons we compete. But here is something I don't think we talk about enough. Winning can become one of the greatest threats to your culture too. Not because winning is bad, because success has a way of changing people. Slowly, quietly, almost without anyone noticing. I want you to imagine this. You have just won 8 games in a row. The campus is talking about your team. Attendance is increasing. Local media is beginning to notice. Players are receiving compliments everywhere they go. Social media is full of highlights. Parents are excited. Alumni are reaching out. Everything feels great. Then Monday's practice begins. Something feels different. Dramatically different, just different. Players arrive a few minutes later than usual. Warm-ups aren't as sharp. Communication isn't as loud. Film sessions become quieter. Attention to details begin to disappear. The little things that help you win start becoming optional. Nobody panics after all. You're still winning. And that's exactly what makes a success so dangerous. It often hides problems instead of exposing them. And one of the greatest lessons I have learned is this: the scoreboard tells you what happened yesterday. Your culture tells you what about to happen tomorrow. Championship coaches understand that difference. Average coaches become prisoners of the scoreboard. When the team wins, they assume everything is working. And great coaches know better. They understand that winning sometimes cover weaknesses that losing would immediately expose. A missed defensive rotation that didn't cost you the game. Poor communication that your opponent failed to punish. Selfish possessions that still ended with points. Lack of discipline hidden behind superior talent. Winning has a way of convincing us that problems aren't really problems until they become impossible to ignore. And that's why I believe one sentence should guide every successful program: celebrate the victory, study the mistakes. Those two things must always happen together, because celebration creates gratitude and reflection creates growth. One without the other eventually creates complacency. One mistake I see many young coaches make is allowing winning to change the standards. Practice becomes easier, accountability becomes softer, conversations become shorter, expectations slowly disappear. Not because coaches planned it, but because success makes people comfortable. And comfort is a dangerous place for any competitive program. Comfort usually whispers lies, such as we have arrived, we are good enough, keep doing what we are doing, or we don't need to improve anymore. I never believe those voices. In fact, I think winning should make us even more humble, because every victory reminds us how much work it took to get there. Humility keeps people learning. Pride convinces people they have already learned enough. It's a huge difference. One sentence has become part of my coaching philosophy. Confidence comes from preparation. Humility keeps preparation alive. Without humility, confidence slowly becomes arrogance. And arrogance quietly destroys championship teams. I also believe something every first time head coach needs to understand. Players are watching your response after victories just as carefully as they watch your response after defeats. If coaches become satisfied too quickly, players will too. If coaches stop demanding excellence because the scoreboard looks good, players will assume excellence is no longer necessary. Culture never changes in one dramatic moment. It changes one small compromise at a time. One practice, one meeting, one conversation, one exception. Until eventually people begin saying, we are just not the same team we were a month ago. Oh, they're right. Not because basketball changed, because standards changed. And standards always determine culture. If I were leading a successful team today, I would remind my players one thing after every victory. Winning doesn't give us permission to relax. Winning gives us a greater responsibility to protect what got us here. Because the habits that build success are usually the first habits people abandon after success arrives. And that's exactly what great coaches refuse to let that happen. So far, we talked about understanding the danger of success. The rest of the episode, I want to talk about learning how to lead through it. Because success changes everyone players, coaches, parents, fans, directors. The question isn't whether success will change people. The question is whether you will notice it before it changes your program. If I were leading a university basketball team that had just won several games in a row, I wouldn't allow winning to become our identity. Winning is something we do. It's not who we are. That's an important distinction. Because when players begin identifying themselves only by victories, they also begin fearing defeat. Fear changes people. It makes them protect reputations instead of pursuing growth. I never want my players stepping onto the floor thinking, I hope we don't lose. Well, I want them thinking, let's become better today. Growth is always our target. Winning is often the result. One habit I would establish after every victory is very simple. Before we celebrate, we reflect. Not because I don't enjoy winning, I love winning. Every competitor does. But celebration without reflection eventually creates entitlement. I would ask three questions after every game. What did we do well? Because confidence matters. Were we fortunate? And what part of our game were fortunate? Because honesty matters. Sometimes we win because we played well, sometimes we win because our opponent missed open shots. And sometimes the referee's decision goes our way. Sometimes the basketball bounces kindly. Recognizing those moments keeps humility alive. Then comes the most important question. What must improve before we play again? And that question keeps hunger alive. I never want a winning streak to become an excuse for slowing our development. One thing I have noticed about great programs is that they never become prisoners of public opinion. The media might praise them, fans might celebrate them, rankings might reward them, social media might tell them how great they are, and none of those voices should become louder than the voices inside the program. As head coaches, we become the filter. We must protect our players from believing everything they hear. Praise can become just as dangerous as criticism. Both can distract people from the work that still needs to be done. I have always believed something. Praise performance and reward the character. Those are two different things. I'm happy to celebrate after a game, but I'm even more interested in celebrating the player who stayed after practice to help clean up, player who encouraged a struggling teammate, player who accepted a smaller role for the good of the team. Those are the behaviors I want repeated. Because championships are rarely lost through a lack of talent. They are often lost when people begin believing talent is enough. Another responsibility of a head coach is protecting humility, not by making players feel small, but by reminding them how they became successful in the first place. Preparation, discipline, relationships, sacrifice, accountability, those things never stop mattering because the scoreboard says you won. Well, if anything, they matter even more. I also think winning should increase our gratitude. After every victory, I will remind our team that there are people who helped us arrive here, like parents, former coaches, teachers, strength coaches, athletic therapists, managers, assistant coaches, university staff. Nobody builds a successful program alone. Remembering that keeps ego under control. One sentence I would probably repeat throughout the season is this: success is something we share, ego is something we carry alone. Choose carefully which one you want. As we move deeper into the season, I would become even more attentive to the smallest details. Because details begin disappearing long before victories do. Is communication still excellent? Are players still arriving early? Are assistant coaches still challenging one another? Are veterans still setting the standard? Are we coaching with the same energy we had in October? Those questions matter far more than our ranking, because the rankings change every week. Culture changes much more slowly, and once culture begins declining, the scoreboard eventually follows. So before we finish today, I would like to leave every future head coach with one assignment. The next time your team wins, don't begin with the highlights. Begin with the habits. Ask your players to identify one habit that helped you win. Then ask them to identify one habit that must become even better before the next game. Keep the conversation centered on growth, not results. And finally, I'll leave you with one thought. Every coach wants to build a winning program. I understand that. So do I. But I hope we build something even greater than that. I hope we build a program where people remain humble to success, unified after adversity, grateful for every opportunity, and committed to improving whether they win by 20 points or lose by one. Because in the end, the scoreboard doesn't define great programs. The people inside them do. And if we never lose sight of that, winning becomes something we experience, not something that controls us. So next episode, we will explore another challenge that every head coach eventually faces. Not success, not failure, but conflict. Because whenever passionate people work together toward a meaningful goal, disagreement is inevitable. The question isn't whether conflict will come. The question is whether your leadership is prepared when it does.